I'm Jim.
And I'm David.
And this is the Practical Guitarist Podcast.
The podcast for people who eat, sleep, and breathe guitar. The Practical Guitarist Podcast is brought to you by Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Great Lakes Guitar Pickups provides fantasy tones at prices a practical guitarist will love. Featuring top-notch construction, attention to detail, and a fully custom product, if you can dream it, Great Lakes Guitar Pickups can probably build it. Follow them on Facebook at facebook.com/Great Lakes Guitar Pickups. Are you a regular listener? Why not? David here reminding you of all the ways you can participate in the Practical Guitarist Podcast. Subscribe using your chosen podcast app. Review us on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or Google Play. Find our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/practicalguitarist or on Twitter as @practguitarist. Support the show. Merchandise is available in our Threadless store at practicalguitaristpodcast.threadless.com. And donate to us via Patreon, available at patreon.com/practicalguitarist. Reach out to us directly via email at questions@practicalguitarist.com. Hello, Jim.
Hello, David.
I think we've been spending the last 2 days just trying to be more wise.
Yes.
and less wise cracks, but more wise, right?
Yes.
I mean,
yes, and that's true.
So
after we wisecracked, then we became wise.
yeah, so I know all about Jim's escapades from yesterday. So yes. when we get to that part of the show, he's gonna fill us in, and I'm just gonna go to sleep. And then, because Jim and I had basically a 4-hour conference call yesterday, and it was more like a counseling session.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And it was not just it was group therapy is what it was. And the funny part is that I think we both are kind of reevaluating everything all at once, and both kind of making some tough decisions about our behavior, our irresponsible gear behavior over the last several years, and kind of reevaluating like where we should be versus where we are, and the roadmap and how screwed up that is. Like how everyone lays out plans, particularly for things like this, and then they shiny object, and they divert, and then they go do something else, and then they never actually get back to the thing that they had originally intended to do, which is it's very easy for that to happen. This is why you hear about people who go into insane amounts of credit card debt over gear and things like that, because there's always that one other thing that you'd like to have or need, and then I will use this word because many people use this word, need, and that is not practical, which is why we're going to talk about it on the show. But before we do that, Jim, I think we should get the audience interaction portion of the show out of the way, because I actually have something that a question I'd like to propose to the audience. So if people can't make it through the whole episode because they're mad at us or whatever, at least they can participate in this part. So I'm in a bit of a conundrum, right? I've been looking at my Helix long and hard, and been using it as basically as a headphone amp for guitar over the last couple of days, and I'm not altogether unhappy with it, but there are things about it that I don't like. As I have been sitting in some place that's different, I usually use the computer to program it. I don't usually interact with the knobs very much. I don't interact with the switches very much other than with my feet. Right. So I put it up on a table, and I was going through all the motions and getting some patches programmed so I could use them with headphones. And it occurred to me while I'm doing this that there are a couple things that I really don't like about the Helix build quality. I know many people will tell you that it's built really well. It is. It's heavy. It's got a big, solid steel chassis. It should be made out of aluminum, but it's not. And it is definitely roadworthy, if you don't step on the knobs and switches, or not the switches, but the knobs, and this is a problem I have with any device that goes on the floor. The cable jacks aren't that great on it. It's particularly the USB plug. When I had it plugged into my computer a couple weeks ago, I stepped on the USB plug on accident. I was actually vacuuming, and it bent the USB jack, and I was like, oh God, I hope I don't have to replace this thing. Now, fortunately, it did not bend it permanently. But what that made me realize is the USB jack is actually not mounted to the chassis. It is mounted to a board, and that board flexed, and it didn't break. So I got away with it, and I'm okay with that. And actually, the cable took more damage than the Helix did, which is kind of funny. The cable's bent. It's crooked. It looks really funny. But I was like, man, that was a close call, because that would have cost me probably $150 to repair it. And the knobs are not, they just don't feel that solid and sturdy. Like they felt like they designed a potentiometer and knob combo that is really more geared towards looking cool than one that's actually functional and will last forever. The joystick also feels appropriately silly like that. Now, Jim, you have the HX effects. Do you have any of those same controls?
Yeah, so I have the 4 knobs.
And then you have the joystick, right?
No joystick.
Oh, you don't have the knob that you can push up and down, back, right, left? Oh, you have buttons. That's right. The HX Effects has the right, left, up, down button. Which honestly, the right, left, up, down buttons are probably better, more reliable, right? So this led me down a path of thinking. And I was like, I've always kind of looked at these players using the Axe Effects and wondered. And I'm not a big fan of the guy that runs Fractal, Cliff. But, as we've done on the show many a time, kind of got to park your pride in your garage and realize that a lot of times you have to buy things from people you don't like. And in Cliff's case, like they got a couple of excellent products that, in my opinion, do actually have a bit of a leg up on Helix in some of the departments that I'm worried about, which is reliability. Their stuff is built to last. I mean, it's crazy overbuilt. And they offer, good warranty packages. And they make it plain up front for professionals. When you buy this, pay the extra money and you get a warranty. You get this extra warranty. Like, that's not something, I know that there is an extra Helix warranty available, but when you buy it from Guitar Center, they're not like, do you want to buy the Helix warranty plan? They'll sell you their warranty plan all day long. Right. But I'm like, but I want the line 6 coverage, against manufacturer defect and all that. So they have to replace the unit if something's bad, instead of, Guitar Center just continually giving me the same bad units. So it's the whole thing. Plus, I also, if I move to a place where there's no Guitar Center, it'd be nice to be able to fulfill my warranty, right? So that's a big part of that. But I always feel that, the manufacturer warranty is probably a better deal than what you would get from retailers. I think retailer warranties are a scam. And I have seen some horror stories about people in retailer warranties. But anyway, the main thing is that I'm looking at the Fractal stuff. I was looking at the Axe FX 3. And the Axe FX 3, for those of you that don't know, is on sale right now. It's $2,250, right? To $2,250. And it is as powerful and does all the same things that the Helix does, and it does some other things. But the nice thing is it has visualization in the display, so I can see my input-output levels, and I can see where they're dinging for the AD converters, and try to make sure that my stuff is level balanced. It has a similar feature to snapshotting. I mean, it's basically on par, but I just think the visualization inside the Axe Effects is way, way better than what's in Helix. I mean, when I go to an EQ page in Helix, it would be nice for me to be able to see a graphical representation of the frequency spectrum so that I can know where I'm peaking and stuff. And, like, they don't have any of that. But the Axe Effects does. They don't have, like, just basic input-output metering, none of that. They don't have anything that shows you how much compression is being applied to your signal. So it's okay, because, I mean, you get to tweak with your ears. It does train you to use your ears more than worrying about the visual stuff, which is something I'm experimenting with my own mixes. But, of course, the problem there is that it would be nice to be able to turn those features on or off, because I think having them would be better than not having them. And then my final critique which I think I've mentioned on the show before, is that the cab models in Helix are pretty bad. I know that there are a lot of people that say that they use them and that they can get away with them. But I've seen some of these crazy patches where people have laid out like their cabinet model, and then they have another cabinet model, and then that other cabinet model has a reverb on it, and then they're mixing them together, and they're using up the DSP because the cabinet models suck. And that's why I'm like, why wouldn't they just model the cabinets in a way that you would actually want to use them? So instead, what they did, and this is my interpretation, because there are microphones in Helix that you would never use on a guitar amp. There are several microphones in Helix in the models for each amplifier or a cabinet model they give you that are specifically geared towards bass cabinets and bass guitar. Those are common microphones you'd find on bass guitar. So here's my theory, and I've taken this from another YouTuber. I don't recall his name offhand, but I was watching the video the other night. It was in a comparison of the Axe-Fx and the Helix stuff. And what he was saying was that he thinks, and I totally agree with him, that the Helix cabinet models were made with a reference microphone, and then they applied a frequency spectrum thing to either an EQ or an IR to the reference monitor to make it sound like the other microphones that it's using. So the actual cabinet models are not done with the actual microphone that you're picking. And on top of that, they did it because it's faster, right? Like that's fine. And I've used mic modeling in the studio and it works pretty good. But I just think because I'm so tuned into guitar and like the sound of guitar, it just does not work for me. But they're shrill, they're harsh, they're hard to dial out. I mean, everything has to have a really low high cut. I'm cutting off highs at 5K. I mean, it's crazy. So that all leads into the fact that I'm looking at Fractal. And I know, Jim, you're being very quiet. I appreciate it because this is a long story. So Fractal has the Axe-Fx 3, very expensive, not in the realm of possibility for me right now. Maybe. Okay. The other part is that they make, and have just announced that they're doing a new floor modeler based on their new Aries modeling technology called the FM3. The FM3 has not come out yet. There are various people. Well, I'm already on the list, right? So they have a list. You can get on the list. So I went ahead and just said, to hell with it. If I choose to go that route, I'll already be on the list. So the FM3 has a couple of strikes against it coming out of the box. It's the successor to the AX8. They're canceling the AX8. They kicked everybody off the list for the AX8, pushed them over into the FM3 list. It's $9.99, which is the lowest price of a Fractal product I've ever seen. I think it is the lowest price they've ever done. And it's not made in the USA or anything. It's designed here, made in China, just like the Axe-Fx is, the big boy. And all of that stuff aside, I only have a couple of like little caveats. Can't do 2 amps at once, right? You can do 2 amps on the same patch and you can switch between them, but you can't do 2 amps at once. It is allegedly not that much more powerful than the AX8. So it is like the Aries version of the Axe-Fx 3 or the AX8 equivalent, in the Aries modeling technology. So it is still probably 4 or 5 times more powerful than the Helix Stomp is. Just in raw numbers. Like, I don't know exact. So a lot has to do with how the software utilizes that stuff. But in raw numbers, this thing should be extremely powerful. And we know that Axe-Fx's modeling technology, like they have a leg up. People really do seem to like their stuff. I have never had. I've had my hands on an Axe-Fx, I think, once for like a minute or 2 minutes. And I was not impressed at the time, but that was several years ago. And that was before Aries, and that was before, there's a lot of things. But also, I have a lot more experience with modeling and mixing with a modeler. So I think that's going to work out better for me if I go that route. Mm-hmm. But then I'm kind of sitting there going, well, if I sell my Helix, like, I don't know. There are a lot of questions. So then we had our conversation. And the upshot of this, and I'm going to give you the end result, was that maybe I should just sell my Helix and get an amp. Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, I'm really only using it for direct recording right now. I would use it for open mics. I'm not doing a lot of that right now, although that's probably going to change as of about 15 minutes before this show started. So but anyway, I went and I looked at some amps. Of course, I could do this, and I could get a PRS or the PRS MT15, which, as listeners of the show know, in the last couple episodes, I've tried that thing out. I really like it. It's on the short list of amps I wouldn't mind having. Or I could do the unthinkable and sell both my Helix and my Mark V 25 and try like hell to get into a Triple Crown, which it's a possibility. But there would probably have to be some cash that comes out of pocket in order to do that, which I'm not prepared to do right now. So, Jim, why don't we talk about your revelation, and then we'll circle back because I have a whole lot more discussion on other things that are going on in my gear life that kind of revolve around what we talked about.
Just to give you a little something, there's a used PRS MT15 in excellent condition.
Oh, yeah. I've seen them. Yeah.
For $430.
Yep. I know.
So that's an awesome deal, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're 650 new, and they're not old enough for that to have any real abuse on it.
Nope. Yep. So, and there's two of them. They're both one's an excellent, one's in great condition.
And a little birdie told me that they're not really 15 watts.
Yeah, they're actually.
It's got a pair of 6L6s. They're like 35 watts or 40 watts.
Well, we could talk about what the difference in wattage and what wattage ratings is in a minute, because I think that's important. But that's
a whole other conversation, maybe another episode.
So I got a hold of David and I said, look, I think I'm going to make a change. So I returned the Black Star and I picked up a Marshall DSL 40 CR.
Can we stop for a second? I want to do something because I know you said the magic words. You returned your Black Star.
Yes, he's very happy because when I get to GearFest, we go play through this, not that. But anyway, or we're going to play through it. So because we'll play through each other's stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're gonna play each other's guitars too. It's gonna be really fun. Wait till you get your hands on my Kiesel.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be different for me. I haven't played a 7-string in about 5 years, so it's gonna be different for me. Probably more than that, 7 years. But anyway, here's the other thing. I'm looking over at my pedal board because and folks, if you're not hearing the echo today, I'm not going to tell you how I did it because
he has an anechoic chamber.
Yes, but I do have a chamber. I am talking into a chamber. So I actually stuck all my pedals on my board, including the HX effects. Every single pedal that I have for distortion is on there, with the exception of one. And by that picture, David, you know which one is not on the board, right?
Yeah. The Metal Zone. I don't know why you wouldn't like a Metal Zone, Jim.
No, but what is
the problem with the Metal Zone?
I'm going to do is Metal Zone better in front of or behind the amp? Front end of the amp.
It's definitely better as a preamp than it is as a.
I'm going to do the Metal Zone challenge,
dude.
It's kind of like the what is it? The ice bucket challenge.
You gave me a great idea just now. I'm going to get a cabinet modeler, like one of those little IR things, like the little stomp box ones, and just run a Metal Zone into it.
Here's what I want to do. This is, I paid very little for this.
Oh yeah, like $20. It's a doorstop.
Yeah, it's a doorstop. It is beat to shit.
Oh God, bring it to me at GearFest, Jim. Bring it to me, please.
What I want to do, folks. I want to do this, and then I'm going to give it to David at GearFest. This is what I want to do. I want everybody to sign up. This is what I want you guys to do if you want to do this. If you want to do it, sign up. And what you get to do is do the Metal Zone challenge. You take this same Metal Zone. We will all use the same exact Metal Zone, and we will plug them into our respective amps, and we will do a video of us doing the Metal Zone challenge. Everybody gets to do it, and what you do is the person that has it will pay to ship it to you. And then that person pays to ship to the next person. The next person.
And I mean, we're talking about a padded envelope from
right. Don't insure it. Don't put if you lose it or if it gets.
Yeah, it should be less than $10 to ship it.
Exactly. Just let's have some fun with this thing.
Yeah, let's do a pass around. You know what? Honestly, and if you want to, throw a pick in the box.
Yeah,
for the next guy.
Everybody throw a pick or a business card or something to say.
Yeah, something to just like get people like interested or whatever. Throw some stickers in there.
Yeah, throw something in there. Let's make this fun. Let's make this a little bit of fun. We'll call it the Metal Zone Challenge. So That's it. It's my idea. Any other YouTuber grabs it, I'll punch him in the nuts.
Before you take off, because I didn't mention the audience participation part from my whole spiel in the beginning.
Yes, right.
I want everybody's input. What should I do? Should I sell my Helix? Should I get an FM3? Should I go whole hog for an MT15 in a cabinet? Or should I sell everything and go for the TC Electron or the Triple Crown, TC Electronic? No, the Triple Crown, the Mesa Boogie Triple Crown, which would also involve me getting another cabinet. So
I can only vote for two of them. I'm voting for the MT15 or the Triple Crown, but I don't want you to go into Hawk over the Triple Crown. I think the MT15 is an awesome idea.
I think the MT15 is winning right now, but
it wins practically, and it wins.
Well, there's going to be more conversation about that at the very end of this episode.
So now my pedal chain looks like this, folks. It goes from the guitar into a volume pedal, into a wah pedal, into an HX effects, which then goes out to, are you ready? Well, actually, there's a tuner in there too.
Are you using these in the loop, or are they?
They are in the front end.
Okay.
So the front end, so the I'm doing 4-wire in the HX effects, so it can also do dirt. And I'm using the dirt channel on the amp as well. So I'm as dirty as they get. Right? I'm a dirty old man. All right, so
you sure are.
What we've got is, so from the wah into the tuner into the HX effects send goes to the big muff, goes to a DS1. That's right. I have a DS1, and
I'm trying to look real closely at the photograph you sent me, Jim, because I want to see what your settings on your DS1 are.
Oh, they're.
I see. Yeah. I see. Says the blind man as the picture loads for me. Now I understand. Okay.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Into the blues driver, into my Paisley drive, into the front end of the amp. Then from the effects send of the amp back into the HX effects, which then routes its internal effects. Folks, you can put a looper anywhere you want in the HX effects, just like any of the other high-end ones. So typically what I do is all my dirt channels are before the loop. Then I put the loop in, and then anything after that is after the effects. So then the return goes back into the output of the HX effects goes to the return of the amp. I'll have to do a little video of that for people that wonder, how do you do a 4 cable on this thing?
Yeah, I'm interested in what your rig sounds like right now. So a couple of things to note.
And I want to do an all effects. I'm going to put all of my dirt channels.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, that's a hallmark of my videos. When I've got like 5 fuzzes going, they're all coming on. It's going to happen. No, so the DS1 is kind of the surprise to me, but not really. Okay.
No.
When I see how you're using it, I'm like, oh, he's just using it as a boost.
Yeah.
He's got it's kind of a gritty boost. Preamp boost.
Yes.
And that's actually perfectly mated for a Marshall too, because it's kind of a Marshall-y type sound. And I find that you'd think that like running pedals that don't sound like the amp you're putting them into like would sound bad, but I think the speaker plays so much of a role in that I've had really great success running Marshall in the box pedals into Marshalls and Fender in the box pedals into Fenders and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm actually kind of interested. What was the Marshall in the box you had? The Pinnacle?
Yeah, I had the Pinnacle. It's okay. I mean, honestly, if you're going to do it, it depends on what you're looking for. If you like JCM 800s, the Pinnacle is probably the deal. If you want Plexi, then the Wampler makes one that's Plexi like. I forget what the name of it is, but it's a cool pedal too. And you got your blues driver, right? And as I see there, you've got that tweaked for like low gain. So you're basically stacking stuff, and that's cool.
I'm stacking gain stages, exactly.
Right.
And so, folks, I don't go gritty super. And as David knows, I like to get my grit from my amp. So whether I'm pushing the front end of the clean side a little hard, or going into the. And so I'm going to say this about. So that those who don't know, the Marshall DSL 40C line was changed. They went to the Part 40CR. This has been a little while, but some folks aren't really.
Yeah, it's been about a year since they started coming out.
Yep. And so they put a MIDI on here, which is
it's got MIDI jacks and.
Otherwise, I got to pay $160 for another freaking pedal for controlling what. So what's cool is they give you two master volumes. There's 2 master volumes on this thing, which is awesome because you can set one a little louder, bang, boost.
Right.
And that's nice. And I was trying to see, believe it or not, one of the 2 volumes, even if you set them for the exact same amount, is a little bit.
Yeah, because it's got an extra gain stage. That's why.
Yep. So it's actually a little bit cooler. One of them is a little cleaner. One of them boosts a little more, which is right out of the box. Pretty cool add-on. They've taken the reverb off of the pedal because they're like, nobody uses that because the reverb was useless on these things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting to the point where I don't even want to see a reverb on an amp anymore.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Fender guy, you're doing it.
Yeah, Fender reverb is one thing, but like I played the Triple Crown today. It's got a reverb on it. Like, what the hell's the point?
Hey, the pedal you couldn't think of was, believe it or not, called the Plexi Drive.
And that's what I thought. But I was thinking I thought it was like British themed or something. I don't know why. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
I might get one of those. But anyway, so I like and those who don't know, the speaker was changed. So they had both an old C, because I could have saved some money buying the old DSL 40C, or got this. And it's just, the speaker is a lot better than this thing. I don't know if
it's a V-type, right?
Yeah, and they've retooled the cabinet, from my understanding.
Yeah, the V-types are so good. Like I know people are like, oh, V-type's a cheap knockoff of a Greenback or whatever, but the V-type is a really good speaker. I like it better than the Creambacks that Friedman's using. Yeah,
it's really nice. I actually compared it to a $3,000 amp they had there. They had like a what was the name of it? The Bogner something or other. It was
the Uberschall or the Ecstasy?
Ecstasy. They had an Ecstasy.
The Ecstasy is a legit amp.
$3,100.
The difference between that and the Ecstasy is that when you get the Ecstasy over halfway up, the Ecstasy will kill small animals and still sounds really good doing it.
Yeah, it was incredible. I got to say that. I will say that. And I pushed them both through a Marshall 2x12 cabinet, which I really liked. I didn't dare go with the volume of a 4x12. We had some fun. So that was a fun day. And then rewiring this thing took,
So here comes the difficult part of this story, though, right? Like, you made a lot of sacrifices to get where you are right now.
I did. I made a lot of stupid sacrifices.
You took the Black Star back.
Yep.
You traded in your Amp 1.
That's right.
What else did you trade in? A cabinet. The Hughes and Kettner cabinet?
Yep, the Hughes and Kettner.
Okay, yeah, and the Hughes and Kettner cabinet. So Jim, part of what happened was Jim called me and he's like, I'm thinking about taking the Black Star back. And I was like, look, honestly, it depends on what you're doing with it. He was only using a single channel on it. I'm like, why don't you go look at a bass breaker? It's a Marshall style, single channel Fender amp. And that led to further discussion. It's like, well, what are my other options? And I'm like, well, dude, if you're not happy with what you're doing, because I'm doing the same thing right now, right? I'm like, clean house. Just get rid of a bunch of crap. Whatever you're not using or whatever you feel like, you could use to get into something that works better for you, do it. And the original discussion was you were going to get another Lone Star.
Right.
And that didn't end up happening. But nevertheless, like that's a possibility down the road. So he's got this thing for 45 days to try it out. He can decide whether or not this is going to work for him. And the other thing is like, he doesn't have to worry about all the little upgrades and add-ons. Because I will say this, if you're a guitar player and you have gas and you keep buying and buying and buying, you know why that is? It's because you're not satisfied with what you have. And it's not that you're buying and buying and buying because you're not satisfied with what you have. You're shiny objecting, which is that you get distracted. I have a Mark V 25. That has been my amp for 5 years now. 4 or 5 years now. That has been my primary amp. I have not deviated from that thing. This is the first time I've really, really thought about selling it and like meant it, because I would be upgrading into something that I feel is even better than what I already have. And I looked at doing the Friedman thing. I'm so glad I didn't do that. I was glad when I walked out of the store that I didn't trade my Mark V for a Friedman. It felt right. Okay. So, I mean, I feel where you're at. I mean, I've been there, and I'm there right now. We're gonna go deeper into that here in a moment. But do you feel like this is still going to lead you down the path of just swapping pedals in and out?
No,
No.
I
fill the holes and be done with it.
I think that I've I spoke with you about that. I think I'm going to get a California tweed next year. So this is going to hold me over until I do that. And the big thing is going to be making a decision on whether to go to California tweed, head and cabinet, which is probably what I'll do, or combo.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm good here. The truth of the matter is, the only thing that I would do if I did go quote unquote pedal route is I would have to buy a new pedal board. So I have to buy a bigger board, which means that I got to have more power, which means that I got to have, or break the board and have two boards.
Yeah, two boards that connect somehow. And once you get into 4 cable, that becomes a nightmare.
Yep, and that would be so I'd have the effect send and return board, and then I'd have this board. Yeah. And then I probably have to get like an MS3 or something like that, or MS5.
Yeah, switcher, and then the switcher programming and all. Dude, you're getting into the point where. So that's why I said when you were talking about he had the Helix effects on the table for trading. I'm like, when he told me he was doing that, I'm like, I mean, yeah, I get it, but you'd have to be set in stone on what you're going to do board wise. Exactly. And the other thing about the Helix effects is that it provides him the ability to program and loop in and out things as he needs. So, I've had the MS stuff. They're great. They are not for people who are not like gigging 3 nights a week, in my opinion. I think they just require a lot of time investment. And if you aren't making a significant amount of money doing it, it's not worth it. Yeah. And that's another big part of our discussion was that you and I, and this show is a reflection of that, folks, by the way. We didn't intend to make this a gear podcast. Our focus for the last 2 years, both of us, has been on gear. Man, I really need to get the right sound to do what I'm doing, and we're just buying stuff left and right, and it's got to stop. Like, we're both kind of in the boat where it's like, when are we just going to decide on what the hell we're doing? For you, you've had a changing music landscape, but for me, nothing. Like, I haven't really been, nothing has been changing in my music life in terms of what I've actually been doing. And it sucks, especially for me, because I'm like, this is just an indication of me not getting off my butt and doing something. But it is, I guess I'm now at this point where I'm like, how do I change this? So that leads me to my second part of the show. So if you're a guitar player and you don't play out, and we've talked about, the bedroom guys, making the transition into playing out is often tough, especially when you're older. So for me, it's like a renaissance. I did it when I was younger, and then I took like an 8-year break, and now I've sporadically gone and done like an open mic here or there, or I've done a jam night or something like that. And I need to get back to playing, like going out and playing regularly. So the problem is, I live in a major metropolitan area. For those of you who don't know, I'm in the Chicago area. I'm in the western suburbs, and there are bars everywhere. There are small clubs everywhere. But I'm a family man. I don't drink, so I don't go out to bars. I don't really have any reason to be there. I don't have friends who hang out in bars. So I have no way of knowing where the local like open mics are. Literally no way of knowing. And it occurred to me, I was like, well, I'll just Google, and I've done that several times in the last several years, hoping to spur on a renaissance, and going and looking and like not finding up-to-date information and not finding any of that stuff anywhere. So it's all word of mouth. And if you don't know players, you're not going to find these places. So I joined about 2 years ago. I joined a Facebook group, the Chicago Area Musicians Network. And I do see activity once in a while. There's a lot of people in there, and they, I need a singer, or I need a guitar player, or whatever. So I just, on a whim, I said, you know what? Where are the open mics in the Western Burbs? And I got a torrent, right? There's probably 10 of them I didn't know about. So if you're looking to enter into this realm, a couple things to remember is that you need to find some sort of connection to your local area, whether it's through Facebook or word of mouth at the music store, or I mean, you can ask. So that's another thing I've done. Is I've asked music store employees, like, do you know places around here where people play? Usually, they'll have a leg up, and if you go in there enough, you might even run into a customer who's like, well, I go to this one, and that's all you need. You need one, and then you'll find the rest of them.
That's
so, I just thought they'd all died out in my area, because there used to be years ago, 10 years ago, but now it's all karaoke and that kind of thing. So I'm like, well, there's got to be stuff for musicians. I know there's a lot of us around here. So I'm thrilled to death on that. That's gonna change things. But it also weighs in on the question I had for our audience, which is, what should I do? Because now I'm kind of like, well, if I go to open mics, having a Helix is a good thing. Having a self-contained unit that has my cabinet models that I can just plug into a PA is probably the best option I could have. Especially since the last open mic I went to, I ended up plugging into a Digitech floor processor from like 20 years ago. So I think I'm going to go this week, and I'm going to try to explore a couple of these and see what's up, see what their venue's like, and what their planning and stuff is all like, and just kind of get a feel for what's going on. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's a tough thing to get into a social music scene, and like get out there and actually do things. I'm not a people person. Right? I work in computers. The last thing I want to do is pick up the phone and take a help desk call. It drives me nuts, because I'm just like, I for one thing, I feel like everybody's mad at me. Most of the time, people are angry with me, and I know that's like a personal problem that I have. And as we mentioned on the show before, I'm in therapy, but like that's a big part of how I handle my interactions with other people. And so when I go to these open mic situations, like, I'm putting myself out there, and and to go alone, that's a whole other thing, because I don't know anybody else around here anymore. So, but yeah, if you're looking to get out and play, that's my suggestion to you, is find an open mic. That's the best way to start. Even if you suck, like, that's the other thing. If you've never played on stage before, you're going to suck the first time. Just get used to it. Like, warm up to the idea. You're going to bomb, and you're probably going to bomb 5 or 6 times before you start to get it. And then when you start to get it, then you're like, okay, now I can do this. And you'll go home and you'll change your practice routine because of it too. Because you'll realize where you failed. I couldn't remember the song. Like, then you're going to go home and you're going to practice the song 50 times, because then you'll remember it. Or I don't know how to play in time. So you get your metronome out and you start working on it. And that's the only way you're going to get better as a player, is to expose yourself to those things. And Jim, you do it quite a bit, right? I mean,
yeah.
And do you think that makes you a better player?
I think so. I mean, let me put it to you this way. It doesn't make me a worse player.
And it's fun. That I can say for sure.
I have a lot of fun. I meet a lot of people. I get to partake. It makes you a popular person. If you're talented at all, people beg for you to come up and play with them, because they want to be associated with you. It's like, so I'm a really good singer as well, and not to brag, I mean, but I am bragging.
Well, you're a singer primarily, guitar player secondary,
right?
Which is how most of it should be, but we're not.
So I hear melody in my head, and I can vocalize it better than a lot of people. But anyway, so when I get to a place, I don't know if anybody remembers the stupid song "Picture" by Sheryl Crow and Kid Rock, but every time I would go somewhere and I would sing, someone would come up to me and say, "Can you sing Picture with me?" And so I got to the point where I was like, "No, I don't really want to do that." And it wasn't because I didn't like a person. I just got sick and tired of the song, and I got sick and tired of people who would say, "Can you do it with me?" Because really, what they want to do, and that was me being really kind of a jerk. I'm not. I can't take that back. That was me being a jerk. But what happened was, I'd get up there and they would sing out of tune, and they would have poor timing, and I'm like, "Look, I'm a professional." And I forgot that, look, jackass, you're at a karaoke night. Get your crap together and be a guy and just sing. And it doesn't matter. They don't care. They don't care that they're crappy and they're drunk and they're slobbering all over you while they're doing it.
Right.
just have a good time. So that's how I see it when somebody says, "Hey Jim, can you come up and play guitar for me?" It's because I'm enjoying that interaction and the fact that, hey, there's a little bit of celebrity that comes along with it. I have guys that'll come up and go, "Man, here." I had it just the other night last week. Guy handed me his really expensive Martin. He goes, "Here, make it sound."
Yeah.
And
let me see what it really sounds like, you know?
Yeah, I felt bad because when I gave it back to him, he was like, no, do another song. I wound up playing like 7, 8 songs. I finally said, look, you got like some, and then the guy says, that guitar has never sounded so good. And part of me doesn't know how to take a compliment. So I went, well, thank you, but I suck.
I'm the one, actually what you should have said is, I'm the one that sounded good. Your guitar was just doing the thing.
Exactly. Your guitar was all of it. Thank my word.
No, Jim, you're not full of yourself, and I'm not either. Like we had this discussion this weekend too. So we both think that we have. Yeah. I think we both are more self-deprecating than we should be. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. But when you look at it, it means one thing. I will never come up and say I'm better or I have no room for improvement.
I don't consider, unless you can't play through a song, meaning like you can't keep time or something, there is no better in music because there's just different. Like I would never say David Gilmour is better or worse than Steve Vai. I mean, that just it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not a competition.
Absolutely.
It's art. Like you're not going to look at and I got called out because I talked about the Mona Lisa this week on Facebook, but I got called out by Nick on that. But would you rather compare the Mona Lisa with Michelangelo's David? I mean, they're two completely different things. You're talking about sculpture versus visual art, but they're both, art, right? At the end of the day, and nobody would sit there and debate which one's better. That's just not going to happen.
Oh, I'm sure you got some art critics.
Oh, yeah. I mean, have you ever read any art critic stuff? Oh, my God.
There's always some real ring-all that...
Yeah, and the only reason they get published is because they do nothing but generate controversy.
If anybody thinks clickbait is new, they've got another thing.
Yeah, it used to be a page turner.
Yeah. Oh, headline.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say that when it comes to what we do, we have to accept the fact that what everybody does, every person, I don't care who you are, we all bring something new and different to the table, and we have to learn how to get that across to people and accept our own failures and our own successes.
Yeah.
And here's, so David put up what he was talking about. He put up a thing about Game of Thrones, right? And he said 8 million or 800,000 people or 800.
It was 850,000 people signed a petition to get HBO to remake the final season.
Okay, first of all, that's a drop in the watching bucket, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, we can't get 850,000 people to sign a bill, or sign a letter to send to Congress to pass a bill. But we could get 850,000 people who are pissed off enough about Game of Thrones to sign a petition to change it.
Right, and
it's just jaw-dropping to me.
And that's what we were talking about, was that this is I'm going to take it in a circle. So that's a first world problem, right? We got this TV show, and we can't stand how it ends. Which, by the way, David and I will be quitting to watch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that's why we had to start earlier tonight.
Yes.
Anyway, because we don't want any spoilers, we want to watch the next one. But anyway, so and that's a first world problem.
It absolutely is.
And we're sitting there like the things that people are willing to go to bat for right now. And I'm bringing this around because guitar players are a subset. We're a subculture of a culture, right?
Right.
And so
larger part of the culture.
Our
culture, I'm going to throw it out there, Jim. Our culture is a bunch of whiny little babies. And we're whining about the littlest things. Dude, back in the 70s, when you wanted a distortion pedal, there weren't 50 of them. you picked up a Big Muff because that's all there was, or Distortion Plus. You know, that's
right.
it.
You bought what the local mom and pop had,
and you learned to use that thing. And that's what gets me is that today we have so many players, you know, talking about this is a perfect example. We were talking about the Rev the other day, you know, the Rev G amp,
the
Rev G3 or whatever it is. And we got all these players who are like, oh, it's the greatest amp ever and all this stuff. And it's like, listen, you don't need the amp to play guitar. You know, right. There are acoustic guitars. There are other amplifiers. And frankly, there are a lot cheaper amplifiers that do similar things. I played through a dual rectifier today. Last time I checked, that's a heck of a lot cheaper than a Rev G3. And it probably sounds better, too, in my opinion.
Oh, heck yeah.
But that's my opinion, right?
Right.
And
we are Boogie fans, so.
Well, the reason why I say this is because first world problems, right? If you can't play guitar, why are you worried about? And by the way, most of us can't, right?
Right.
If you're not playing every other weekend or something in a professional situation, you don't need a Bogner Ecstasy. You don't need a Rev G3. You don't need a Fender Twin, Jim. Fender Twin, right?
Yep,
that you saw one of those this weekend. You certainly don't need a super reverb.
I did love the 2x12, by the way. That was an awesome guitar. I mean, awesome amplifier.
And I can't tell you
90 pounds in and out.
I cannot tell you how many people I have seen lately who are getting into that level of purchase.
Yeah.
Look at me. I was looking at the Axum X3. That's a perfect example. I'm not afraid of saying I'm guilty of this. Like, I am absolutely guilty of that. I have a Mark V 25 and I don't even play out.
Well, I'm going to come around. I'm coming around to that because I'm going to ask you why you're not using a different product.
So that's why
for that purpose.
And I'm not. I also want to distinguish this, right? Like, so I'm not calling out people who have money and really want to do something and just like, oh, I'm just going to buy this because I like it. That's fine too. We luxury purchases are okay, but understand that they are a luxury purchase, and not everybody needs that. And so don't be the guy in the gear page, right? The guy that's like, I have a Rev G3 and it's the greatest amp ever, and if you don't, you're an idiot.
Yeah. Well, there is a certain sense of what I do should be what you do, and I'm not saying me and you. I'm talking about in a general sense.
Sure.
The ego is boosted by people who follow you, right? I mean, my ego gets boosted when I go to an open mic and somebody else,
and a bunch of people come up to you and tell you, "Oh man, your tone is so good," right?
Right. And it's actually, and the whole night I'm going, man, my tone sucks. It's awful. I'm playing through somebody else's stuff. I don't know.
Jim, you know what the funny thing is? You're talking about somebody coming up and telling you how good your tone is. I have never actually had that happen, but I've had plenty of people come up and tell me I'm a good guitar player. Yeah, which I think is a better compliment.
Yeah, I've had people tell me, oh, that was so good. And I want to tell them, I blew like 14 chords in that song, but I sing real loud over them. So
so you didn't know.
I know how to make my mistakes. I don't know what chord to play right here, so what I'm going to do is play lightly and sing loudly.
Yes, exactly. You have the that volume pedal topper that's like, I know this versus I don't.
You go through a song like American Pie, and you can blow a chord or two. Because it's just so many chords, and nothing repeats. But anyway, so I'm what I was getting at is this, and I'm glad you piped in, because we often forget, and I know I'm guilty of this. We often forget that what it's about is playing the guitar. And so I was in Guitar Center, and there was this dad who was looking at I told you about this. Who was looking at a Jiva for his son, and I'm like, and I walked in and I heard the solo to Journey's not "Don't Stop Believing." Is it Don't Stop?
Oh, I thought it was. I thought that's what you were. Yeah, Don't Stop Believing.
Don't Stop Believing. Right, that's the one. It's just a small town girl. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so. And I'm listening to that, and it's out of time. The bends are terrible. And I'm like,
are terrible.
Yeah, the bends are terrible. The whole thing, I'm like, okay. And I walk up to the counter to start doing my thing. And I said to the guy, I said, that guy's about to buy that kid a $1,500 guitar.
Floyd Rose equipped guitar.
Floyd Rose equipped guitar. This kid is obviously, the way he's holding it, the way everything, I'm like, this kid has obviously never owned a guitar.
Yeah, he's learning for the first time.
And I'm okay with the fact that he was screwing up. Hey, he's got more guts than I do, because I will not play a Guitar Center for that very reason. I don't want anybody looking at it. So,
I had that happen today.
I have to go into the back room, and
it was funny today, man. Can I interject for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
I went to Good Time to try out some amps, right? Because I got a project now. I got to figure out what I'm doing. So I went in there and I played dual rack, and we played that thing. It was loud. And then I played those amps are serious business, but not really my vibe. So I plugged in the Triple Crown because I've been looking at those anyway. Yep. And I was playing, and of course Jeff comes over and he actually videoed a bit of it. And I'm wondering if Jeff's gonna actually put this up on YouTube or something, which I'm okay with. Like, Jeff, if you need my permission, consider it permissed. And then he did that, and then which, by the way, I believe he's a Patreon supporter now. So just FYI. And then on top of that, he shot the video, and then like some people came in. I think they were waiting for lessons, and this guy was like hovering around me, like literally a foot from me, and I was just like trying to ignore him, like whatever, not my problem, not worried about you. If you're not going to talk to me, that's one thing. Like, I don't mind if you watch from afar. I don't care. But if you're going to stand there, like, say something. At least be like, wow, that's I'm really interested in what you're doing, or like, hey, that's a really cool guitar. Like, anything. Don't be the creepy guy that's like, wow, this kid could really play, or whatever. And I've had that happen before too, where they're like talking to their buddy, like, well, look at him. It's like, no, say something to me. Like, don't be like that. I don't get angry over anything. It's just like, it just seems disrespectful. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems weird.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
It would be like if I played by my window in my house and like there was a crowd gathering outside. Like,
yeah. Well, that's why I get changed in my window in the morning. But anyway, so.
Oh God, that's why they run away.
Yeah, run away. So on a serious note, so I'm like, okay, I'm like the other day when I said I played loud, I had to play loud. I had to play loud enough for people to hear me. I just want to be in a room where people can't see me. So I know they could hear me. But I got rooms. They built those rehearsal rooms now.
And those are awesome for that. That's one thing that I'm glad they did.
So anyway, I'm plugging away, or I'm watching the kid, and I'm like, geez, the dad. And then the Guitar Center guy goes, wow, he sounded really good. And I didn't know if he was being facetious or if he was like serious. No,
I think so. I think a lot of people have a soft spot for people who are first starting, and they're like, yeah, no, that sounds good for a beginner.
Right.
But then at the same time, like, he's got to maintain a positive attitude. So I wouldn't have said anything, but like in the back of my head, I'd be like, yeah, but not good enough for an $1,800 guitar or $1,400 guitar.
And then I'm like, you know what? The other side of me, which is the side that is just like what you were just talking about, is fuck it. If you got $1,500 and you want to get the kid a good starter,
if you want to do that for your kids, like, that's absolutely the right way to do that. But you're buying it for yourself, like, think it over.
Right. I don't know if it would be a Floyd Rose, just because the kid's going to have.
Maybe that's what the kid wants, though.
That might be, and
lots of kids want Floyd Roses when they first start playing guitar, and then they get one, and they're like, "Oh my God, what am I thinking?"
Exactly. Exactly. And I go, oh, shoot.
Well, you had a Floyd Rose guitar for a while, right, Jim?
Yeah. It's a pain in the rear end.
You've had multiple Floyd Roses, and I told you both times they're a big pain in the butt.
I have. And
I know we talked about it on the show initially, like what my gut reaction to why I hate Floyd Roses is. Yep. And it's just that I said originally, it was like, oh, you have to have extra tools to change strings and stuff. You know what it is? It's not even that. They are like extremely sensitive to everything that goes on. And it's like, so I got the Kiesel It's got a hip shot floating trem on it. It's the best trem I've ever used. It has a very simple way to change strings, and it has a very simple, and you have to use a tool to do it, but it's easy to figure out, and it has a simple way to adjust the saddles. And like, that's all you need. And this whole idea that, you know, these people are buying these Floyd Rose guitars, and then like, you know, they snap a string and then it gets out of whack, and they leave it like that for a couple of days before they change it, and then they put new strings on it, the next change, so now your action's all jacked up, you know, or you tighten the screws down on the headstock too much, or you tighten the nut down too much and you crack the neck, which I've seen happen. I have a guitar hanging in my bedroom right now that actually has that problem that I'm trying to ditch.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you're interested in buying an Ibanez S470 DXQM, I'm selling it. So don't listen to our back episodes. You might find out a bit more information about that guitar.
And you won't want it.
Yeah, I will show you on Reverb if you'd like. And the Reverb listing, I had to itemize every detail of that guitar as I was selling it, so that there was no possibility that I was going to get dinged for a return or something.
Did you sell it?
Oh, it's almost sold.
Oh, is it?
I've been working with a guy for a couple days now, and he's done everything but make an offer at this point. And he actually told me he was going to make me an offer, so I'm just waiting.
I was going to ask you only because if it didn't sell before, Gearfest, we should take it and slide down the slide with it.
You know what, though? I don't want to take... So Gearfest is big enough, like, you don't really want to carry anything with you. You want to try to like keep it as minimal as possible. Now we'll have a mule with us, Dan Kish, to help help lug the camera equipment. Nice. We'll have I'm basically going to be doing all the filming. Kish and I, between the two of us, I'm going to teach him how to use my stabilizer and then all of that.
Oh, awesome!
So this shouldn't be a big deal at all. But I would recommend like we not try to do anything that's going to require us to carry anything extra, because I walked around with a bag, like a 10-pound bag last time, and after a couple hours, then I was like, this is stupid, and I actually went and put it in my car. I took 20 minutes to go walk to my car, put it in there, and then come back.
Yeah. So going back to what I was talking about, the thing that I wanted to say is that I think it's a great idea to buy a decent starter guitar for a kid. Don't buy those starter packs.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend. We talked this on the show before. I'd recommend about $500.
Yeah, I would too. I would recommend at least $500 for a new one, $300 for a used one.
Mm-hmm. Because unfortunately, inflation. You used to be able to get a $350 Mexican Strat, but unfortunately, with inflation, it's not $350 anymore. So
I'm telling you right now, I foresee a jacket prices for several reasons in the near future. We've got right now the tariffs and what's going on in China, and unfortunately, we're not doing a good job with China. We put too much into China. You can't.
Well, I lucked out with my Mark because I bought it before the price increases over at Boogie. They're $500 more than what I paid.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So, yeah,
and those who don't know, we will see a minimum wage hike. And that will.
Yeah, in our state, we already passed it. It's $15 in our state now.
Yeah. So if you don't start seeing price hikes on even the littlest things, because it all reverberates around.
It's already happening. But you know what? Its cost of living is going to go up, and then everybody's salaries go up, and that's why I'm like, why raise the minimum wage? I mean, like, I get why people want to do it, but it's only a temporary relief to a permanent problem.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm not going to talk politics. Jim's right. Prices are probably going to go up. If you're looking at things right now, I would recommend you be real smart about what you're doing. And if you got stuff that you're not using, sell it, get what you want, and hang on to it, because I have a feeling that we're going to see a really ugly economy here in the next couple of years with regards to the guitar market.
You just mentioned, there was a time when you could get a Mexican Strat for $350.
That wasn't that long ago. That was in the 2000s.
Right. So find one now, and it won't be long before you won't be able to get a Mexican Strat, as it is hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
Right now, your Chinese Strats are pushing the $500 mark.
Yeah, and it's not the country of origin; it's the quality level. But the problem is, I think the Mexican Strats 10 years ago are a higher quality level than the Squires that have replaced them.
That's correct.
So
I would say that. And so, I mean, every time you turn around, somebody's like, "Oh, these contemporary Squires are so great." I played some, but I haven't really been not to the tune of the price tag they're giving them. No.
Right.
No.
So I want to get back to my shenanigans from the beginning of the episode. So
I want to come into those shenanigans.
Huh?
So the shenanigans from the beginning of the episode.
All right.
We're talking about. We also had a conversation with Nick Bongers. You and I were involved in, and there was another floor device that was mentioned.
Yeah, the and it's probably, if I have to have something for open mics, that may be a possibility.
Yep.
And that's the Sans amp.
Yep. That's super cheap, easy.
$300, you get a tuner included. It's got literally everything you need except for a wah pedal.
Everything.
Yeah. I mean, and they have 4 different versions, and they've got different amp models on them. Basically, each one is a different amp model. The new current fly rig can either be British or California, so you can switch between the voicing of the amp emulator circuit in it, that's stellar right there. But the other thing is that they all sound great. I've played the version 1s, and they were passable. Like, I almost bought one when I bought my Angry Driver, which I think the Angry Driver probably still would win out, but I have to have something to emulate an amp out on the other side of it in order for it to work properly. But I could probably get away with running it into a cab model. I mean, it's got a Marshall in a box sound. I mean, why not? So yeah, that plays into this. There's been a lot of questions in terms of how we get things laid out. I'm not going to say we're going to do a year of no gear next year. I'm probably going to be doing it forcibly.
Yeah, me too.
But you know what?
Well, no, next year I'm not going to do a year of no gear. But I'm going to push it towards the end.
But you know what, though? It's not about a year of no gear. It's about a year of using what I have and playing harder and playing better than I ever have. And I'm not saying that to like put a positive face on it, but I need to get back to playing. I need to stop worrying about gear, like really, really bad. And I do play a lot. You can ask my wife. Like, I sit here and I play 4 hours a night. I'll sit in the chair and I do these same patterns over and over and over for like 4 hours a night. And I'm seeing results. When you see results, it's a lot easier to condemn yourself to that. But the problem is, like, when you run exercises, it's not the same thing as like playing a tune. So I do have to take time out and like jam along with tunes and whatever, and play the backing tracks and all that to try and get my head around how do you use these things. But nevertheless, so I got to figure out my gear situation. I've asked the audience. I echo this again. Give me your ideas about what you're doing. But I want to touch on something I talked about previously, right? So the Con Marie method, right? Marie Kondo, organizational expert, got a Netflix show, award-winning book, talks about does it bring you joy? If it doesn't, you get rid of it, right? So that's the basics of it. If you want to know more, you can look her up and read about it or watch the Netflix series. So what I did was I took an inventory of all the things that I have, and then I notated them, whether they bring me joy or not, right? So let's start. I'm going to go through the inventory on the show. And hopefully this won't take terribly long, but it might, because there's a lot of stuff here. So I have a Mark 525. Does it bring me joy? Mostly. I have a couple little gripes with it, but for the most part, I like it. I don't think I should sell it unless I'm going into the Triple Crown. 1x12 compact recto cabinet. I like it. There's some caveats I have about it. There's not enough low end in it, but I can live with it until I upgrade to something like a Triple Crown at some point in the future. The katana head, it's gone. It's convenient, but that's all it is. And so at this point, like, I need other stuff more than I need convenience. So Line 6 Helix and bag, that's, I have the bag for it too. I'm probably gonna. It's got a G question mark, so gone, probably. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to use it before it's gone and make a decision about it. And that may mean that where I go from the Helix is the decision that's got to be made, right? Because if I can't decide whether I want the FM3 or a PRS MT15 or whatever I'm going to do, then I'm probably going to keep the Helix. That's why I said G question mark. I'm not attached to this piece of gear, but it's functional and it does something for me right now. So as far as I'm concerned, I'll keep it for now. The Kiesel Zeus 7-string, keeping that. I have a G&L S500 USA, keeping that. I have a Gibson SG 2016 Tribute standard. It's gone. It's not that I don't like the guitar. I actually really do like the guitar, but the problem is it doesn't bring me joy. The G&L S500 Tribute I have. Another guitar I really like. I was very happy to get that guitar when I got it. Doesn't bring me joy. It's gone. The Legacy Tribute I have, the Pickup Mule. As soon as we're done with the pickup giveaways, it's gone. My Fender Jimmy Vaughn Stratocaster. I am keeping that, not because it brings me joy, but because I am nostalgic, and that is the guitar that I used to gig on many years ago. That is a guitar that will stay around just to hang on my wall. Yeah. I have a cheap Ibanez acoustic that's in a case. That's absolutely gone. The Shengzhe Unicorn, I'm going to keep that mostly because of the show, so that we can tote it around to the various events that we attend and, have people take a look at it, play it, whatever. Because it was a big part of the show in the early days. Yeah. The Ibanez S470 DX QM, that is gone. Okay. But either I'm giving it away or I'm going to smash it. No, I'm not going to smash it. I'm not Jared Dines. Jazz bass. I have that. I have a question mark next to that because that could conceivably be replaced with a plugin. Yeah. And I may do the plugin. There's been in the back of my mind, I'm like, I really would rather be able to just program my bass parts than have to sit down and play them because I suck at it. I'm not very good at bass. I'm terrible at it. I have a piece of shit Squire P bass. I listed the value next to this too. It's gone, by the way. It's going to be $30 because the truss rod is stripped. So you'd have to have the special Stuback tool to grab the stripped truss rod. So it's basically just a body and crap pickups, right? I have a Pelotar. I'm going to keep that. I have a Black Edition Pelotar. I'm going to keep that. There's some sentimental value attached to those, but also because they are functional for the guitars that I use. Okay. Barber Trifecta, I'm going to keep that. Again, functional for what I do. And these are small ticket items. So even if I were to sell them, like chances are I'm not going to get much for them. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Analog Band Sump Bass, obviously I'm going to keep that. That's like a holy grail item for me. The Boss Angry Driver, it still makes me happy, believe it or not. I'm going to keep that. The Chase Bliss Warped Final Mark II. I have that listed as keep right now, but should something arise that I need, that is probably low on my list of keeps right now at this point. I just need a good chorus. I don't need one that has every feature under the sun. And actually, I could probably do away with a chorus and just go to a Univibe and be totally happy. And I may at some point. Ernie Ball VP Jr., which is a volume pedal. That's gone. I just don't use volume pedals. Like, I know that it's a utility item, that it would be nice to keep it forever, but I don't use it. And I'm probably never going to use it. So, gone. I have a Tube Screamer, the Tube Screamer Mini. That's probably gone, to be honest with you. And I think I talked about giving that to you, Jim. So we can talk about that some more. But the value on that's like $40 anyway, so it's not pittance. I have an Ibanez SM7. Okay, so that's a Smashbox 7, right? It's like their old distortion pedal they did in the early 2000s. I'm actually keeping that because I'm nostalgic. I bought that pedal twice, and I think I only paid $40 for it the second time. So I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll keep it. I mean, it's something that actually for doing some of these metal things, like these metal rhythm parts and stuff I'm tracking for the thing I'm working on, it might be the perfect tool for some of that. So yeah, I might actually have to dust it off and use it. The Dunlop Fuzz Face that I bought for the show, gone. I don't have to keep it. Like, I would like to keep it because I'd like to be able to shoot it out with other things. But you know what? I don't really want to do it. Honestly, I don't really want to do fuzz pedal demos forever. Like, it's a pain. I don't mind doing them every once in a while, but yeah, don't need anymore. I have a Dunlop Band of Gypsy Swords, which was a gift. I have it marked as gone, but it's like the Chase Bliss War vinyl. Because it was a gift, I'll probably keep it. Especially because the person that gave it to me, like, we have a long relationship, and I'm glad that I have it. But it's low on the list, and if I talk to that person, was like, listen, I really like it, but I need the money to get something else that I also really like, then maybe that might work out. But ultimately, the point here is, like, you heard how many things in here are gone. I have hundreds, if not thousands of dollars worth of gear that's going out the door.
Yeah.
And it's just because, like, I reevaluated my stuff. Like, I'm going down from 5 guitars or 8. I think I had 8 guitars listed or 9 guitars listed. I'm going to go down to like 3, 4, 5. Because one of them's the Shengzai, right? So that barely gets any playtime. I'm going down to basically like a nostalgic guitar, my USA S500, 2 Kiesels, because that's what's going to happen. I'm going to replace one of these guitars. I'm dumping 3 other guitars. 4 if you include the acoustic. 5 if you include the acoustic and the Ibanez.
Yeah.
So put it in perspective, like, I think all of us who are into these gear podcasts in the gear community probably need to reevaluate, like, what it is we actually do and whether we need the things that we do. And it's not like, if you have money, luxury thing, like, sure, you can collect things too and all of that, and that's fine. But if you're a player and you would rather have nicer guitars or nicer amps, and you've got like 50 pedals, like, what are you doing? Stop and think about it. Don't get into the trap I have. Be wise about it. Yeah. And I think that's what we talked about at the beginning of the show, is like, Jim and I have tried to be more wise. And all of us are smart, right? Like, we figured out a lot of things, and we figure out how to build pedal boards, and we figure out MIDI and all these different things to make all these interesting musical things we do possible. But none of us are wise, because we don't stop and think, like, is this the best way to do this? Do we even need this? Jim, I was talking to you about modulation pedals, and you were talking about, I do use like 3 or 4 different modulation pedals in the Helix, and I'm the HXFX. And I told you, I said, what did I tell you? I said, you only need one.
Yep.
You don't need multiple modulations. As far as I'm concerned, when I see tab or like music notation that says turn on your phaser or turn on your chorus, I just say turn on modulation. Like, because the audience can't. I know people will argue with me on this, and that's fine. Send me your hate mail. I can tell you right now, the audience doesn't know the difference between a flanger, a chorus,
or a phaser.
They don't. They just don't. And they wouldn't even know the difference between a chorus and a short delay.
Nope. Not if you punched them in the eye with it.
No, because they have no experience with this stuff. I saw Robert Jackson was having a conversation in the Pedal Boards of Doom group, and he was talking about the fact that, like, everybody gets so bent out of shape about all these pedals, and he said, do you really think the audience even cares? Like, the audience, most of your audience doesn't even know what a pedal board is. They don't know how you get those sounds.
Nope.
I remember somebody I went to high school with, they came over to my house, and I was playing guitar, and they were like, how, they pick up the guitar and they strummed a chord and it was clean, and they're like, how do you make it sound like what you make it sound like? And I said, I hit the overdrive button on the amp. And they're like, wait, you mean that doesn't come from the guitar? And I'm like, no. No. That was really enlightening. I was like, seriously?
You're wondering, what?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all, when we first start, go through that too, where we're like, how does that sound come out of, what I'm doing or whatever. But even I knew before I started playing guitar that there were distortion pedals. Like, but that gets different time, Jim. Like, but I only knew because I'd seen on MTV, and I'm going to date myself here, but somebody will probably dig this clip up on YouTube. On MTV, they had this like Weekend of Rock or something, and they had all these bands, and they were all like hosting these different like little segments, and the band Lit. Do you remember them? Lit. I don't remember any of their songs, but they existed, right? And their guitar player had his pedal board, and he's like, when I hit this chorus, because they were doing a segment where he was like talking to musicians, right? He's like, when I hit this chorus, I always make sure I turn this pedal on, and this was a distortion pedal. And I go, oh, that's how all that works. And then when I finally did buy a guitar later, I was like, oh, now I get it. Like, you don't really, the amp is just something to make it louder. You know, you just get a distortion pedal and you can get all the sounds. Now, little did I know that distortion pedals are probably were not preferred at that time as much as amp distortion. It's gone the other way now. Like, everybody wants drive pedals, but.
Was that was that My Own Worst Enemy? Was that the song?
Yeah, I think that was one of their songs. Yeah.
Did they have another song?
No, Sum 41 was the one with My Own Worst Enemy, right? Or was that Lit?
No, that was Lit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds right. I wasn't a big fan. So, like, that's the other thing is I believe me, I have my embarrassing catalog of music from when I was in high school, and prior to high school. So, like, when I was in middle school, like, I would listen to Green Day. I had the records prior to Nimrod, right? The ones that were before they went like and started to become something they are now. But I grew out of that stuff super fast. Right. Like, I was listening to Green Day, and then I was like high school. I was listening to actually did listen to a lot of pop punk in high school, which is kind of strange. I had the Blink-182 record, the Enema of the State record, and then I can remember their second record came out, and I wasn't interested at all. Like, or not the second, I guess it was the third one, because the first one was like Dude Ranch or something like that, right? Yeah. And I just remember not being interested at all, being like, you know. And I got really into the hard rock scene, and I was listening to, you know, the new metal stuff like Korn and all that. But yeah. By the end of high school, I was basically into Iron Maiden and you know, Deep Purple, The Doors. Like, I completely did a 180 in my like freshman year, and I think I bought my first Hendrix CD my freshman year of high school. Now, I didn't start playing guitar until sophomore year, so put that in perspective. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Purple Haze, yep, all in my brain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was on the radio when I was a kid a lot.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, so like I'm a fan of your music when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, I left one out. The band I listened to the most in high school, Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin. I was going to say, tell me you didn't listen to Led Zeppelin.
Oh, I had every Led Zeppelin record. I bought the box set, and like, dude, I was a teenager. I'm listening to music that was like 30 years before my time, or 40 years before my time.
Oh, yeah.
Because I graduated in 2003.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah, so I'm 34, Jim. Like, you know I'm young compared to you. You're only, what, 107?
Yeah.
I mean, Keith Richards and you go way back, right?
Yeah, we were both. It's funny because, okay, so bands I saw, this is the funny thing. So bands I heard on the radio, and some of them I saw live. Rolling Stones, right? The Who, Hendrix.
Yeah, dude. None of those bands could even tour because most of them were dead.
Yeah, Zeppelin. So you look at those bands that Pink Floyd. So I'm talking about all the original lineups of these bands.
Yeah.
Kiss. You know, I know some people don't care. Geez, I can remember as a kid, you know, Jeff Beck still doing, you know, he had just come out of Cream.
Yeah, dude.
Or not Cream. I'm sorry.
I think Jeff Beck was my senior year.
What was he in? He was in Yardbirds. So
I got into the Yardbirds stuff real big too.
Yeah, and I remember the day the Beatles broke up. I was like, it was a big deal in my family because everybody was like musical. Like, we're like, oh my god, the Beatles are breaking up. And I remember Heart when it was brand new, and I was like, oh, this band, it's called Heart. And you know, this band. You know,
and the funny thing is, all the bands I grew up with, they're a drop in the bucket. Nobody even cares about them now. Like, it's so funny.
It's kind of funny that funny and sad a bit that there was a wave, and unfortunately, kind of the grunge era is the trailing edge of what people will still go and pay good money to see.
Right. I mean, well, so like Korn, I use Korn because they were like the harbinger of that generation, like the post grunge scene, and I would consider them LA new metal. But anyway, after grunge was over and they came out, like they still get $40 to $50 to $100 a show.
Yeah,
and they play big venues still. But the other contemporaries, Limp Bizkit, like you'd be lucky to see them at the county fair. And so many of the other bands from that, because that was the other big band from that time period.
Mudvayne.
Like Mudvayne, Static X. Like
the only other one I can think of is Slipknot. Maybe that's
Slipknot is still packing places. And I think, but they're grassroots metal, right? So like they still have like a big segment of the metal scene that's interested in what they're doing.
That's right. So they're not really at the later years of that thing. Like if David Gilmour and Roger Waters went grabbed up Rick Wright and
they would be at $300 a seat.
They would sell everything. Roger Waters is doing that. He is vocally is awful solo, but he's packing arenas.
Yeah, $300 to $500 a seat if they were to reunite though.
David Gilmour does like one night. He's like, "Yep, I'm going to play Pompeii." Okay, so anybody who wants to come, you're paying thousands of dollars and flying to Rome to see it.
Yeah. And the thing is, because those events are events, people are doing that stuff. It's craziness. Yeah. But you're not going to get that out of a band like Korn. And I think there were so many one-hit wonders in the new metal scene. Yeah. Like Papa Roach, I would say Static X, even though I know people like Static X, like Post and all that. I get it. Orgy had like two hit songs.
What's the one? She's a Crazy Bitch. Who's the band that did that one?
I don't remember. But like, I guess the big bands out of that generation, like right after Korn, was probably like Nickelback and Creed. Yeah. I mean,
people can make fun of them all day long, but not Creed because it's obviously the post Creed thing, but Nickelback can still pack a stadium. So
yeah, but my point is that nobody's sitting there talking about like
but they're not talking about what are they going to do next? When's their next album?
Right, and I think we still get that from people. So like, there's a little bit of buzz. There's a small community around Living Color, right? But there's a buzz when their new albums are ready.
Right.
Like Korn, it just shows up. Yeah, that's what it feels like to me. And maybe it's because I'm not connected with those communities.
There might be a Guitar World interview which nobody reads anymore except me. And
well, and so that's another thing is I think the musicians community has gotten really far away from being interested in music that would be on the radio. Like Guitar World, when I was growing up, they would have like interviews with like John Petrucci, but they would also have interviews with the guys from Slayer or somebody like that, where you might hear those on your local metal station. You know what I mean? Right. Like you would hear these interviews would be back to back. Now, when you open up Guitar World, what is it? It's interviews with like all the gent kids.
Yep. And there's very little. I mean, you obviously have still they cycle them. Petrucci, Vai, Satriani.
The people that connect with musicians, but not the general connection to the outside world.
And
you had that growing up too, though, because you had like Yngwie and stuff happen in the 70s and 80s where, there were definitely players like Yngwie and who's the other guy, Alan Holdsworth, and those kind of guys that were like really, really focused towards the musician audience, but not like it is now, where it's like if you play guitar, you don't give a crap about what's on the radio except for maybe John Mayer, and that's it.
Yeah, there's a very it's funny because when I was growing up, well, first of all, we had radio, and that's pretty much dead. That's dying, and in some markets, completely dead. Because most people, I'm not saying everyone, but there's a good portion of people. I'd love to take a poll of a group. How many people have unlimited data? Because the fact is, most people are listening to Spotify. They're listening to Pandora. They're listening to whatever streaming service they have. Apple Music. It doesn't matter. Because of that, they're not really worried about what's on the radio. When was the last time I don't even know what the radio stations are here.
I mean, I've used my radio a couple times this year, but usually when I have the radio on, it's talk radio.
Yeah.
Because I'm listening for news. Like and you know what? I'm getting to the point where I don't even hear the news anymore. I just don't. Like
Nope.
it's absolutely ridiculous. I'm not gonna. I was gonna say something about
it's
recent,
all right,
recent political shenanigans.
It's just biased and
yeah, and when you hear a story come across the radio where it's one state doing something, and I'm not going to say what it is, but if you're listening to the show and you're listening to the show in chronology when this is released, you'll probably understand. But one state does something, and everybody panics, like, oh my God, the country is going to collapse.
Yep.
And then none of the radio stations want to provide any historical context for this having happened every single time that something else has happened.
That's correct.
And it never goes anywhere. Like that's what drives me crazy. So I'm done with the media. That's why I don't read guitar magazines, because if you read guitar magazines now, you're going to believe that the gent kids are the future of guitar and that they're the only thing that matters, even though they're not selling records. Nobody's going to their shows if they have them. You know, I went to see Cannibal Corpse, right? Yep. It was in a tiny venue. Great band, but it was in a tiny venue. And I'm sitting there going, how are these guys like surviving financially? Because unless you're in a 3,000 seat venue, you're not making any money. I mean, they're breaking even.
Yeah. What did you pay for a ticket?
I think it was
$22.
Like $15, $20.
Okay. Okay, so I'll give you. So this week I was gonna treat myself for my birthday, and I was gonna go see the Struts. So they came here locally, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. I went to go plug in my information. $22.50 for a ticket. I'm okay with that. It's about a 1,500 seat place, and it's one of those standing room things. You go.
Yeah, exactly like Cannibal Corpse was.
Yeah. So. General admission, I would have just pushed my way up. I was going to see if I could get an interview. So I was like, okay, I'll try. I went to buy my ticket. They wanted $12 convenience fee.
Oh yeah. Welcome.
And then $2 more for processing. I'm like, wait a minute.
So 50% of your ticket,
$14 for a $22.50 ticket.
Yeah. So you're paying $35 to see the Struts. That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. And I'm sure if the Struts knew it, they'd say, what the? First of all, why am I paying $12 for a convenience fee? It's the only way I can buy the damn ticket. Because
the $22 or whatever the ticket costs, most of that is going to the promoter and the band, right? They get their cut too, right? They're getting the promoter's making 10%, the band's making 90%, and then the venue is not making anything. So what they're doing is they're tacking on another $12 that is purely for the venue.
That's right. And they can take that and stuff it up their rear ends. I'm not doing it. And you guys can chime in if you want. I think that if this is the future of musical tours, they're going to kill tours the way they killed records. Nobody's going to go. I'm not going to pay that much to go see a band that's only got 3 hits. What's going to happen is live music is going to go underground again. And you're going to be going to these like little dive bars. That's right. And seeing big acts that are like packing the place. And that's happened before. CBGBs and all that stuff. Like what that was. That's what it was. Exactly. We had a place called Northern Lights in upstate New York. That's a famous venue. I've heard of that one before. And so you get these places. There was a place called Saratoga Winners. Another one that Hammerjacks. Yeah, there was one in South Chicago when I was out there in the 80s. But the Metro or whatever. Yeah, and it was where you saw people who were, like you said, they were underground. I remember seeing Jim Croce, and just. But it was relatively inexpensive. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't pay the artists. No. Actually, I'm saying that they're not making enough money. Right. But for the venues to do that, they're going to drive that. That's what's going to drive the people away is these quote unquote convenience fees. I'm paying to buy a ticket online. You're not even printing it. You're not even giving me a piece. You're not even organized. Like your convenience fee is basically you scan my ticket when I walk in. If you scan it, I've been in places where they don't even have barcode scanners. Scan it, yeah. They just look at it. Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. So, we're gonna wrap this up because Game of Thrones is half over or whatever. And we
That's
can
right.
stream
We
it.
got to go see it.
Yeah. But I want to leave with a final thought. So, if you're wondering what a band pays and what a band costs to go into a venue, right? Like, think about this for a minute. Just think about it. I'm not going to give the actual numbers. I'm going to think about it. So, let's say Cannibal Corpse, right? Two guitar players, bass player, drummer, singer, 5-piece band, right? They got to have at least one guitar tech.
Yep.
If not two. And for a band like that, it's probably two.
Yep.
They got to have somebody to drive the bus.
Yep.
They got to have a manager to be able to handle things, right? And to make business decisions, which a lot of bands are doing a lot of this stuff. They're consolidating these jobs into people in the band, believe it or not. Yep. And then usually they have a publicist with them to help handle the press if they have to do interviews and stuff.
They'd have a drum tech too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, drum tech. And then I was going to say, a lot of times they bring their own live sound guy, right?
Yep.
So for a 5-piece band, you're at 10 people, right? That go on the road with them, which means that you need 2 vans, if not 3, because you have to carry equipment, right? Yep. For a small band, you'd have to carry equipment. So put that into perspective. How much does it cost you to drive to work 40 miles away every day?
That's right.
And then think about a band that tours and they're in one city one night and then 250 miles away in another city, and they're playing these small clubs where they're getting maybe $2,000 a night.
Right.
Nobody's making anything.
Right.
And that's why I want to leave you with. Think about it, because that's why I'm saying, like, we really need to figure out a better way for this to work where the clubs aren't making all the money.
You'd be surprised to find out that there are a lot of just wedding, quote unquote, wedding and quote yacht rock bands that make more than some of the touring musicians.
Yes. I knew a guy. He was making $20,000 a year, playing 3 or 4 weekends a year.
Yep.
Doing weddings.
Yeah. So it's a scary proposition we've got going forward. And anybody who thinks that the great thing that we've got, which on one hand it is this unlimited streaming service, and the fact that you pay $10, but what we're done is made it so that if you want to keep complaining about crappy music, I'll tell you why, because it ain't worth it anymore. It just ain't worth it. I realize we've talked about this before. There's art versus money, but you've got to have money to create art. You can't make a painting without canvas and without paint. And a musician cannot make a music or a record without a decent studio.
Yeah, they have to have a budget.
That's right.
And so I'm not saying that musicians should make more than, like a teacher or a police officer or anything like that. What I'm saying is they are making so little money, it almost doesn't make sense for them to continue to make records. Yeah. And that's why I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Like, and so for me as a person, like, I know I'm an artist. I want to play, right? Like, I want to get my music heard. I don't really care about the money. It's not an issue for me. I make decent money on a day job. So do you, Jim. So now you have a dream of actually becoming a touring musician that goes around and subs in for other people or whatever and all those things. And that's cool. But that's just, you're looking at that like that's going to pay your bills and keep you eating, and you're going to live cheap.
Right.
And so you have a very good attitude about it. But if you're going to try to make a record, and that's a whole different thing, like, you can't do that on $40,000 a year while you're touring, because you don't get to eat. You don't get to go to the grocery when you're on tour. Like, you have to eat out every meal. So half your money is gone, So anyway, I'm going to leave everybody on that thought.
Yeah.
And Jim, our thing, like, I've been a practical guitarist and you've been a practical guitarist. And all our listeners hopefully will be practical guitarists. And thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
So, all right. Good night.
Good night.